Can you sell your interior design services through video? I'm not talking Zoom. I'm not talking a meeting with Google Chat, but a pre-recorded, here's the video, by my consultation. Today we talk to Frankie Fihn, who says, yeah, you sure as hell can. Stay tuned. Hey kids, and welcome to Designed by Wingnut Social. I'm your host, Darla Powell. I am an interior decorator from Miami, Florida, currently residing in Maryland, and also currently the grand high poobah of all things here at Wingnut Social, a digital marketing agency for the interior design professional. Today is an episode that I have been wanting to speak about, talk about, chat about, converse with Frankie Fihn for quite a while now, and it is about ditching your sales calls for video that lives in your funnel, that explains your services, sells your services, and then the client just buys it, and then you're off to the races from there. And that sounds preposterous. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds insane. You're saying quit selling? I mean, there's no way. How do I do it? Because I know as interior designers, we are not that crazy about the sales process. So it is very tempting. And this conversation I had with Frankie, I think is going to put some light bulbs over your heads, at the very least on the beginning side of selling your services. So before I get into my conversation with Frankie Fihn, you all know the drill. Frankie Fihn is the author of the book Beyond the Agency Box, which is a very good book. I actually own it. He has been in digital marketing since 2007. Frankie is an entrepreneur, shaman, speaker, author, and world traveler. He has been featured with the world's #1 marketer, Jay Abraham, now the #2, Darla Powell. He has also written for several magazines and has been featured in numerous podcasts and articles and has spoken on stages across the world. His approach covers lifestyle design, asset creation, client selection, leverage, and spirituality. Wingnuts, help me in welcoming Frankie Fihn to the show. Hey there, Frankie Fihn. Welcome to the show. How the hell are you?
Darla, it's good seeing you. I've been excited for this little one, so I think we're going to have a good time here.
I think so, too. I hear your kids. They're having a good time, and we're going to hear them every now and then, I think, right?
Yeah, this is real life, and they're dragging chairs across the ground, playing musical chairs. Part of my life adventure is playing the game of what got destroyed today.
I play that same game, only not with children. It's with dogs.
Yeah, totally.
Your damage may be about the same. So, Frankie, I've been following you for quite a while on your Facebook group. Go ahead and give that a plug.
It is called Beyond Agency Profits, and it is for digital marketing agency owners and sharing just a lot of what's working. And I've cultivated it kind of intentionally to have some really, really high-level people. We have like people doing across the board from 6, 7, 8, and even some 9-figure people. And actually, the 9-figure people would blow your mind because a lot of times people think that when you make $100 million a year or more, that you have Ferraris and Lambos, and they're usually just guys playing with their kids and stuff like that.
I love, that's the goal, right? To have that kind of lifestyle, the beach and laptop lifestyle, as you call it. And guys, don't shut off the podcast, because I know you guys aren't marketing owners or agency owners, but this topic is going to be fascinating for you, because we are going to discuss not doing sales calls, right? I know interior designers notoriously dislike instead of hate, doing sales calls, doing the consultations or the vetting. And Frankie, what really caught my interest with you, even 6 months or a year ago, is you have a methodology of actually not doing sales calls. And if you're watching our YouTube channel, Designed by Wingnut Social, that's sales calls with finger quotes, but actually having a video process intake funnel that does that for you. And while I've always had questions about that for a marketing agency, because I do the sales calls, right? I'm personal. Yep. I talk to people. It's curated for the person. I'm solving their problems, etc. I'm wondering how you think that as interior designers, we could get away with doing video sales calls because of the price point, the price level, and the vetting process for that. And let's dig in. Just tell me your thoughts, and we'll have a conversation around that.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, when I first started this, I shared all those same concerns. Am I going to get the right people? It's not going to work at my price point. My people would never buy on video. And just so you guys know, we've done this at least in a few hundred different markets. We have sold many things, by the way. I'm known as the sell services and stuff, but actually I sold my car through video. I've sold washer and dryers through video. Recently, we bought and sold houses. We sold all kinds of high services. We've sold coaching, we've sold consulting, and then we've sold real world stuff. So when people say like, oh, it's not going to work in my thing, you may not know how to do it yet, but it absolutely can be done. And it kind of came from the fact that for years, I worked a lot in the attorney space. And after like 20, 30 calls with attorneys, I could tell you what they were going to say next before they said it, because they just all have such similar problems.
Right.
And so like for me, those calls would go, I'd get on a call with somebody and they'd say, well, I need more clients. And then I'd say, what do you mean you need more clients? Like how many? And they would begin to tell me that they had what they described as roller coaster income. And they would say that like basically they were overly dependent on some referral partners, and they would always give me a number between 3 and 6. And they would say, what happens is, because I don't know whether I'm going to get referrals this month or not, like some months I make a lot of money and it's great. And some months I make almost nothing and I'm struggling to keep the lights on. And I don't even know whether I should invest more and build a team or whatever, because like I don't know what next month holds. Like I literally have no idea whether we're going to crush it or be broke. And I'm just tired of having a business I don't have control over. And then I get on a call with the next person, they'd say, I just need more clients. I have roller coaster income. I'm dependent on 3 to 6 referral partners. And it started to become like so repetitious that I became like almost like a mind reader. So somebody would get on a call with me and say like, hey, they'd say, I just need more clients. And I'd say, hey, Darla, does it sound like you were like you have like almost roller coaster income, because you got somewhere between 3 and 6 referral partners, and some months they send you a lot of business and other months none. But like at the end of the day, you're just feeling like you got a business you got no control over. And they're like, oh my God, yes. And it's like they think it's like mind reading, but I literally just heard it 20 times in a row. And then we've also done this a lot in other different markets. And I started to notice that on a sales call, like there really is just basic things they want to know. And like a lot of the one of the most basic things that a lot of people hide behind is how much is this? And they say, well, I can talk to you and you got to figure it out. And we figured out how to do it openly so that people can see it. And so what I realized is that they're like, I was going through these same milestones over and over. And so when we decided to do it in video, it wasn't like I was doing anything different than the sales calls. I was just doing it faster and more like an 80-20, answering the things I knew they were going to ask before we spoke. And then also the next piece that I think is equally important, it took me a lot of years, but when I grew up, like we only had like 4 stations. Like I was never one of those kids who had cable or satellite. We had 4 stations, and it was like my brother Jordan would hold the bunny ears, try, Jordan, no, like you got it, like perfect spot. Like I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that growing up.
Yeah, I can.
And so like one of the things that came in on TV was like for us late night infomercials. So I've seen like way too many of those in my life. And what I realized is they had a thing called a dramatic demonstration. And my favorite example of a dramatic demonstration is there was a guy who sold hurricane-proof windows in Florida. And he was the number 1 performing salesperson in the company. And he was like 10 times better than number 2 and 3 and 4, 5 put together. And so they had their annual sales conference. And they were like, let's just call him Larry. I don't know his name, but today he's Larry. But they were like, Larry, how are you doing this? And they all expected some sort of like sales wizardry or magic. And it was just a demonstration. So he said, well, at the start of every presentation, I grab this whole here window, I grab this hammer, and then when the person's looking, I go, wham, and I smash it. And I go, see? Hurricane-proof windows. And they got it real fast, right? And so I realized for a lot of us, we sell intangible services, and it's hard to convey what we actually do for people. And the aha for me was like literally to just show a picture of how it shows up for that person and turn the process and your methodology into pictures that they could easily follow. And then what we found is we were just really answering the questions they have. And the 5 most common questions that we're answering that I found in order is like, firstly, they ask it all kinds of different ways, but they're trying to figure out like, what do you even do? Right? Like, and more specifically, like, what can you do for me? Like, what does your thing do for me? And so they ask it all kinds of ways, like, tell me about you, or, I'm interested in your thing. Can you share a little more about it? They it gets phrased a bunch of different ways, but we found the best way. If you started with a picture of like, if you work with me, this is what's going to show up for you. And then immediately, if you show them something they want, the next question they're going to wonder is like, I wonder if that would work for me personally. They're like, that's exciting, but like now they have a more specific question. And this is the part where you get to weed out the people who are not a fit. And if anybody's been doing this for any length of time, if you look back at your past clients who are a pain in the ass, and you look at your best clients who are good, you'll find commonalities in both. And so this is the point where you just call them out and you say, we find it works really, really well. So simple example from my world, but I was having this conversation with a guy who does mobile detailing, and he said he figured out that his best clients were the ones he works with mobile detailers, car detailers. He found the ones who had a real physical shop and customers went there, always made for his best clients. And then there was another type of person called a mobile detailer, where they haven't really yet made any money and they drive to your house and they'll come and fix stuff up, but they do it in your driveway. And so in that section, we just say, like, it works really, really well if you got a real physical location. No offense to you if you're a mobile detailer. We love you guys, but this is not the package you should be buying. And so we really just spell out who it's for and who it's not for.
Right.
And then the third piece, this is the piece that most people leave out, which is they wonder like a more logical question of like, okay, you've shown me something I want, and now you said that it'll work for somebody like me, but like, how does it work? And this is the piece that's missing from most people's sales process. And they don't really lay out like in basic steps how you're going to solve this problem, how you're going to deliver this result, how you're going to create something meaningful for me. And so we found that the best way to do that is in 3 to 5 steps. And I learned this from a marketing guy named Frankie Fihn, where he said he was helping guys to do dating, like guys who were like, introverted and struggling with getting dates and things like that. And this was back in the day before everybody swiped and all that stuff. Like 20 years ago, before everybody was Tinder dating or whatever it is the kids do these days. But he said, like, the first thing we had to show the guy was like literally just how to talk to a girl at all. Like an opening line of like, okay, here's how we can have a conversation. And then it was like, these are interesting things to talk about so you can have a conversation. And then they gave him the next piece was like, how do you actually ask for her number and get a date? And then it was like, okay, these are good places to go for on dates. And they knew if they could get like guys dates even before they work together, that would stick. And so like there's whatever you do, there is a step-by-step process that more than likely can be explained in like 3 to 5 steps, 7 if it's really elaborate. But where you can show people like we do this, this, and this. And again, you're not going into super detail, but you're showing them from a 30,000 foot point of view. Like we got to figure out how to open. Then we got to figure out how to have a conversation. Then we got to get you a date. Then you got to text her, and then you got to take her somewhere nice, right? Like that combination is like there has to be a believable process. And this is the part of the presentation, by the way, where 90% of the objections show up, where they say like, well, like that sounds too similar to something else I tried, or okay, like I can go get that somewhere else cheaper or whatever. Like the objections come up in this part. So if you're afraid of mentioning your price in video, which some people are, I suggest you just stop there and ask people like, what do you think of that plan or that process? And if there's objections to your plan, they're not going to pay you for your service as an interior designer. And if they say that's exactly what I need, they'll like 9 times out of 10, as long as it's like, something they can afford, actually buy it.
Hold the thought. So this is what I'm thinking to break it down. So most interior designers have tons and tons of steps. And it is a service-based business, but our processes are repeatable, but the actual results aren't necessarily repeatable because of the design aesthetic, the art aesthetic. The client coming to us may have a kitchen, may have a whole house run, it may have something like that. So I want to put that just in your mind for the back burner. But most interior designers do start out with a paid consultation to where that is a thing to where I could wrap my mind around, and maybe you'll help me wrap it around the bigger picture, to doing with the video sales and not having to actually get on the phone or vet if you don't want to, and saying, this is what happens on the consultation. This is how we come. We walk through your space, give you actionable steps. And from there, we show you how we work, et cetera, et cetera. That's pretty repeatable and pretty doable. Because I was an interior designer, that's what we did. But I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around, and maybe this isn't a thing, tell me, about signing a client to actually do the design, because there are so many different variables involved in that. And we actually do have to go out, be boots on the ground, whether that's with the consultation or post-consultation once they sign, and measure and do square foot and see what that looks like there. So do you think that it would be acceptable? Is there a hybrid option to this? Is there any business to where
I mean, what you're
it
describing
wouldn't
is
work?
essentially like every solution is custom, so I can't tell you the price. But what you can do is like describe a range of things. So like, for example, if I was describing that in a process, it might be something like, so the first step is we start with a paid consultation. And what we're trying to assess there is like, what are you actually building? What is your dream? What are you creating?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And from there, the second step is then we figure out like your specific needs. Like, do you want a kitchen? Are you trying to build some landscaping? Are you like remodeling an entire house? Like, it depends what you're trying to do.
Right.
From there is we go ahead and craft a specific plan, and we'll create a set of drawings or whatever it is you guys do. I'm spitballing because I'm not an engineer.
Hey, you're doing good. You're doing good.
But I'm giving you like, an approximation of it. And then it's like from there, we're going to review those plans together, and there may be some back and forth at that point. But we go until we've got it happy where we can now actually build it and we're on the same page about what we want to actually do. And then we help you to then source those things and get it built or find contractors, whatever you do. That might be an example of a basic process. And then the next thing they're going to wonder, which is kind of where you're saying is like the money point of view, which is how much is it? I like to, in those scenarios where you're doing something custom, there still is a range. Like there's probably like there's an 80-20 of typical things you would do. I don't like getting on sales calls with people who like just, for whatever reason, like can't afford it. Like it's totally okay. But like, I don't want to spend an hour of my life going back and forth for you to tell me like, I was hoping this was going to be $80, like $60,000. Are you crazy? Like, I don't, I'd rather just not spend that hour of my life. So a lot of that is, you might say, like, typically a lot of people get a kitchen from us, and that's on the smaller scale, and that kind of stuff works. It might cost about $10K, right? And again, I'm just spitballing because I don't actually know the industry. But then you might say, like, in a bigger work, if you're getting an entire remodel or whatever, like that tends to go here. And then there's a whole spectrum of things in between. But I wanted to give you an idea of pricing before we talk. To find out what we would need specifically for you, the next step is to begin that paid consultation. We'll actually come to you and measure it out. And now that person is not surprised by any cost. Like a lot of times you'll find people will watch the video like 5 times and review the price and like rationalize it to themselves and figure out where they're going to come up with it. So you're still probably going to do some in-person and customization, or like, but what you don't want to do is just talk to anybody. Like I look at it as like video is like the gatekeeper for filtering the right people, so that they already know basically what you do, how you work together, how much it costs, and they know the gist of it before you even speak. And for a lot of times then what it changes the nature of is when you do have quote unquote sales opportunities, it's way more collaborative because they already know your price, they already know how you work, they already seen examples of your work, they already know who it works well for. So like you don't have to go into excruciating detail of like trying to sell them the price. They already have an idea of what the price is going to be before you talk. So now it's much more like, tell me about the kitchen you're building. I'd love to hear more about that. Not trying to sell, hey, I'm your interior designer and you should hire me, but it's way more of a collaborative, okay, how do we build this together kind of thing.
It's a pre-vetted kind of foot in the door, right? So they have the ranges right. So when I was doing interior design, I had a lead magnet, which was what should this cost? And we had a breakdown for different rooms, good, better, best kind of thing. Yeah. So that I like that idea to give them a range, or have them. I don't know. Is there a thing where they could do like a checkbox if they're a kitchen designer, or if there's what room are you considering? And then it funnels to the lead video for that room. I imagine you could get as complicated as you wanted to, right?
Totally.
But I really like the idea of not wasting time with, I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm going to say tire kickers, right? Because if you're a principal of your interior design business, you are taking that phone call, you are vetting, you're spending a half an hour talking someone through time and time again. And that's $250, $300 an hour you can be spending building your business. So I do love that.
Can I just add one more piece to that?
Please. Yeah.
The big reason I actually really got into this is because video can also be delivering your sales presentations like 24/7, 365 days a year. Like it doesn't go home at 5:01 and say, all right, I'm punched out. Like, that's enough for me today. And so the other thing too is like, never mind not just talking to the tire kickers, like it's continuously going. And because there will be people who will be researching you at 9:45 at night that you probably don't want to talk to one-on-one at that time.
No. All right, you guys know, or at least I hope you know, if you don't, I'm not doing my job, that we do full service social media management for you guys, interior designers, architects, and to the trade vendors or furnishing manufacturers, etc. But we are excited to announce our very new hybrid plan with Wingnut Social. It's kind of a half done for you, half you do it yourself sweet spot. If you're a beginning designer or a firm who's just really kind of getting started in social media marketing, but don't quite have the marketing budget to delegate it to a marketing firm, because that's a pretty decent size investment, right? This is our hybrid solution, and it's perfect for busy designers who the power of consistent professional content on Instagram. You've heard guest after guest and client after client say how they're getting leads from Instagram, right? But you have that overwhelm. You have no idea what to post, when to post, what the hashtags and captions should look like for a value proposition, a mix in order to reach your ideal client. Well, ta-da! Introducing the hybrid plan with Wingnut Social. You get a monthly content calendar where we create the content for you and you post at your leisure on your own time with our guidance. We're doing the posts, we're doing feed posts, we're editing reels for you. You get 8 feed posts, 2 reels. We're writing the captions for you. We are researching the hashtags for you that drive engagement with guidance, best practices, and quarterly strategy sessions to make sure that your strategy and everything is in alignment with your business goals. So if you want to find out some more information on our amazing hybrid plan, it's been very popular so far. Head on over to wingnutsocial.com and hit up that Let's Chat button, and let's see how we can work together. Again, that's wingnutsocial.com. Okay, so let me ask you about the video quality, about the construction of that. Are we having a videographer come in? Is this a professional level video with some overlay of our work, of how we work? Here's my team. Here's an example of us on the job site. Or is it, a PowerPoint presentation? What have you found works best?
Certainly all of those are valid and they work. But I'll tell you, for years, the opposite of highly polished, highly professional videos actually tend to work really, really well for this. So I think about real life scenario. Ilke and I were moving from Germany and we had to sell all our stuff, because you can't really take most of your stuff on an airplane when you're moving halfway across the world. And so I remember there were a lot of just things like washers and dryers. And I remember she made a video and she had to actually do it because it was in German. And I was just I wasn't strong enough in German. But we sold the washer straight through video. And she just fired up a video. Here's the washer. Let me show you around. Let me run some clothes. This is how it works. This is it running. It kind of wobbles a little bit. But for the most part, it runs. This is how long it takes. This is the soap to use. There you go. There's the washer. It's, 300 euros or whatever it was. And we had 30 people in the first 30 minutes go to buy it. And so to answer your question, I found that the simpler, unpolished, and we do most of this with our stuff, with just a simple little PowerPoint presentation. And again, we're just answering the questions I know from sales calls they're going to ask, tell me what this is, who's it for, or essentially, will it work for me? How does it work? How much is it? And then the piece that a lot of people forget is your end clients probably have not hired 40 interior designers. And so they actually don't know how to move forward with you. So you really have to spell it out. You have to I used to think just well, if you want to work with me, let me know. And they don't even know how they're supposed to let you know. You have to be more proactive and be there's a button below. You need to click that button. When you do, you will see this form, enter this information. And then what will happen is we will get an application on our end and someone will contact you within 24 hours. Right?
Yeah,
you have to really spell out whatever that is that you want them to do next. I used to actually I saw this actually once I was consulting with a law firm, and the lawyer got all the way at the end of the call, and the lady said so where do we go from here? And she was essentially asking how do I work with you? Tell me what to do. And the guy said, well, it's basically up to you. So if you want to work with us, you have to let us know. Have I been helpful and answered all your questions today? And she said, yeah. And he said, well, it's been nice talking to you. Have a nice day, and hung up on her. And I was no, that's where you're supposed to go. Well, the next step is a consultation. We have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday available. Do any of those times work for you? I have between here and here. Cool. You're going to be scheduled with, Darla, and she's going to meet you at 9 o'clock. Our office is located here. Are you familiar with the area? You have to really spell out like what those next steps are in working together. And we found the best way to do that, just like real simple PowerPoint. You can do it just talking. So I'm known as the 5-minute Loom guy in my world. And that actually came about because when I was first starting to sell with video, like many of you guys, I wasn't sure it was going to work. And I was like, I'm going to try this. I think it can be done. But I didn't want to pay for a software, and Loom is like super cheap. It's like $10. But what ends up happening is on the free version, at 5 minutes precisely on the dot, it cuts you off. And there were a couple I made that were like 5 minutes and 20 seconds, and I didn't realize it hadn't been recording the last 20 seconds. And so what happened is I had to learn to compress this into just like a little simple 5-minute presentation. But what I figured out in doing it is that actually turned out to be a benefit. And the reason I I don't know if any of you guys have had this experience, but I've done it where like I pay for a software or a tool and then I forget it. And like 3 years later, I'm like, what am I paying for? I've been paying for this thing for 3 years. So I didn't want to give Loom $10 because I wasn't sure, but it forced me to fit the presentation into this little narrow 5-minute window. And what I figured out is that when you do it, is that successful people with money that are generally busier love it way more because you just get to the point a lot faster. And you just show them like, here's what we do, here's who it works for, this is the process, this is how much it costs, this is what you'll get for it, this is what you need to do next, this is the form, this is the button, this is how you contact us. That sounds like you. Go ahead and get started. And if it's not, or if you still have questions, here's how you can ask questions. And if it's not, that's totally nice too. We appreciate you guys as well. And thanks for watching this video. And that's it. You do that in 5 minutes. And what happens is the people who especially like people who are like really busy and successful and have money, they have way shorter attention spans. And so I actually found that the process actually works better for people, for lack of a better way of saying it, that have money because they just want the details summarized in a succinct way. And we're essentially answering all the questions they would ask anyway.
Right. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, and you kind of answered it there, was what if someone is watching it and they still want to talk to you personally? They still want to, there's avenues there. If you have any more questions, reach out. And then, of course, I guess you would do that if they have additional questions.
We typically handle those questions over text message or by like email, but you can still do a call if you want to. The difference is that call will be 5 minutes long instead of an hour. Because it's like, well, I have this. And usually, by the way, the questions that get left are almost always a variation of, here's my situation. It's a little bit unique. Will your thing still work for me in my scenario? Like my house is 800 years old.
It's a Taj Mahal. Yeah.
It's a Taj Mahal. Like, I know you do stuff with this, but can it work in a Taj Mahal? Or this one's a rental. Do you guys they'll have specific questions about like essentially, will it work in my situation? And the best thing to do is just tell them the truth. If it's a yes, tell them a yes. If it's a no, tell them a no. If it's somewhere in the middle where you're not sure, tell them why you're not sure. But that's really it. We're just answering last minute questions. But I would say 50% of people, by the way, when you do this, will just buy it without talking to you or book the consultation in this case. And 50% of people will say, I got a question. And it's almost always, here's my scenario. Kind of like, what do you think?
I love it. And of course, if they're coming to you to watch this video, we're assuming that your other marketing is in place, right? You're active on social media, your website is up on par, and your personality, you're getting out there, you're doing videos. So they have that know, like, and trust you to get to this step, right? But what if they don't? What if they did a Google search, interior designer Miami, Susan McNuggets pops up, and they're watching this video for the first time? How can Susan McNuggets build that rapport with this potential client through a 5-minute or whatever that looks like for her video to build that know, like, and trust to get them to buy it right there, buy that $500 or $1,000 consultation right there?
So obviously, like we've done this with cold, and I have a lot of people who are in my world who sell complete strangers often, and a lot of times people think there's an imaginary number that can't, my thing's $10,000. You can't sell $10,000 things. Like we've sold $1 million stuff through 5-minute videos. Right. So And like I said, in a crazy amount of markets. So it's not, but usually if you're doing it cold, obviously it's a bigger hurdle. And as a result, your video just has to be a lot sharper and a lot more on point and a lot less rambling and a lot more attention holding. If you don't have those pieces in place. And I think a more fundamental question actually is a lot of people tell me how do I even get somebody to watch the video? And I think it's an important detail to request the video, like for them to actually raise their hand and say, I'm interested. And so like my favorite way of doing it is we have a social post called a hand raiser. And it's really just a 1 to 3 sentence summary of the offer. And so for a lot of you guys, it would be like, hey, we just remodeled Susie's kitchen. Here's a picture of it. If you'd like to know more about like what that would look like for your kitchen, drop a comment below. And then people drop a comment and you say, hey, I put together a little video with the details. Is it okay if I send you the details? And they've essentially requested it. So like, even if you're starting from absolute zero, there's nothing from stopping you from putting out a little hand raiser and just describe some work you've done for somebody. And what's key is you want to focus on what happened for the end client, not you and your interior design that filled the gap. They got a new kitchen, they got their new house, they built their thing, like the things that show up in their reality, because they don't, like, nobody woke up in a cold sweat today and said, I really need some interior designing. But they do think like, man, our backyard sucks and I'd love to have some barbecues. And if we could just remodel this whole area, do you know anybody who does that? And if you show them, hey, let me show you how we can build you the backyard barbecue oasis, that's going to be way more appealing than if you talk about you and your service that gets them there. Yeah. So, but like, that's the easiest way to get people interested right from the get-go. It's like, and when you do this right, by the way, like I remember actually the first time I sold a car like this, I was like, I wonder if a car could be sold through video. And I ended up posting an ad about it, which is essentially what I described. It was a hand raiser about the car. And I told a little story about why I love the car, which was real. And it was a really weird thing because like I had been traveling around the world. So my car was in storage in my hometown and I'm like literally half the globe away from my car. So like I can't fix it. I can't touch it. I can't repair it. And it like from sitting there 2 years in storage, like the battery was dead or something. It didn't start. So I just was like real about people about what kind of condition it was. But the shocking detail to me is when I just told the truth about what it is and what it did and how much it cost and why I was selling it and all those kind of details. I had something like 250 people a day apply to get that car for a week straight until that ad to like ended up turning it off. And I had 3 different people say to me, one of them said, can I just give you money? Can like, we don't have to meet up or whatever. Can I just pay you for the car and have it? And so he paid me for the car. And then within the hour, I had 2 more people go, why didn't you let me know? I would have given you money and just sent it to you. And so they literally gave me money sight unseen for a car that was simply shown in video. So like that to me is like an example of what's really, really possible with all of this. But it starts with like, if you don't have anybody interested in your thing and they're icy cold, you're probably going to have a sharper, more on point video. But you can always get them interested by just talking about what you're already doing for clients and going, if you'd like to learn more about it, I got a little video with the details. And the beautiful thing is the video does the sifting and sorting for you. That's the real magic, is the person who's a good fit and can afford it just says, hey, I got a question. The person who's broke and like, you know, is just not your ideal client or whatever reason, they watch it and they think it's interesting. They just don't call you. And so to me, it's like the real magic is like, if I had to talk to like when I had, I don't know, 1,500 people apply for a car, if I had to talk to them all one to one, like I'd lose my mind. I just talked to the 3 people who were like, can I just give you money? Okay. Here you go, right?
We love that. Can I just give you money? That's the goal, right? At the end of the day. All right, Frankie, thank you so much for your points on this. Is there anything that I've forgotten to ask you that you think would be helpful for the interior design audience that you would like to add before we get into the fire round?
Yeah, just like really, really quickly, I see that the biggest mistake people make with these videos is they think it's about them and their interior design service instead of the result, the kitchen, the new backyard, the remodeled house, whatever. You want to talk about the things as they're relevant to people, and you're just a facilitator of that process. But even when you show them how you work, hey, we're going to consult so that you can get your perfect kitchen. We're going to create a plan for your perfect kitchen. Like every step is about them. And if you understand that, the biggest mistake is people like think they're supposed to talk about themselves. And I actually don't even introduce myself. I don't say, hey, I'm Frankie. Let me tell you about what we do. I just go, hey, like if you're interested in having backyard barbecues, this is what we can do for you. This is the right person for it. This is how the process works. Step 1, step 2, step 3. If you're interested, here's a typical price range. If you want this, it'll be on the lower end. If you want that, this is the best option. That's the premium. It'll be closer to that. To get the more specifics, the next step is a paid consultation. If you're interested in one of those, click the button below. But I see the biggest mistake people make time and time again is they talk about the wrong person in the video, which is not you.
Yeah. I see that too. And people don't really care. They just care about what's in it for them.
Exactly. So you just speak to that very overtly.
I know we care. We love the interior designers, but your client just wants what's in it for them. Sorry. All right, Frankie Fihn, now I have to ask you, are you ready for the What Up Wingnut round?
Do it.
What would the hashtag on your tombstone be?
Lived on his own terms.
Very, very nice. You're stuck on a deserted island. You can have your one favorite food forever. What is it?
Well, I'm lucky that I live in Mexico because I could eat Mexican food every day, but I would also throw some sushi in there. So, like, if they got some Uber Eats, Island Eats, bring me some sushi. Okay.
Island Eats. That's a very popular answer, sushi, by the way, on an island. I guess that makes sense. Last but not least, please recommend a book that's impacted you on a personal or professional level.
This baby right here, Bob Berg, who has actually over the last year become a friend of mine, but long before I read his book, 10 years, it's called The Go-Giver. And I think it'll really change the way you look at the game of business from a game of giving and actually having fun and fulfillment to what most people are doing, which is how do I get people to pay me? And when you focus on the giving aspect, people automatically pay you. And
that is true.
It's easier and more fun, and you'll get way more fulfillment out of it. And the book makes it really simple with easy to digest stories.
I love it. I'm definitely going to check out that book. That is true. When you go from a perspective, a point of view of serving your client and giving and providing that service, the rest of it just seems to kind of fall into place. I love it. Yeah. Frankie Fihn, thank you so much for joining us. Please tell the audience where they can go to find out more about you, and we'll call it a day.
Well, if you guys are interested in like the whole digital marketing side, as Darla mentioned, I got a group. I also got a book, Beyond the Agency Box, which you can get at beyondtheagencybox.com. It's been a top 100 bestseller in its category for like 5 years now. It's
a great book.
Never cracked number one, but to be honest with you guys, I wrote it for digital marketing agencies, but the truth of it is that anyone who runs a high-ticket service business would benefit from that book because I learned it from other high-ticket service businesses. I wish I could tell you I was super smart and figured it all out, but I didn't. I just observed what was working in other spaces and brought them across. But if you guys are interested in that, beyondtheagencybox.com.
Awesome. Frankie, thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate you, Darla.
All right, guys, so a lot to unpack here. I really like the idea of selling interior design consultations with this method for the reasons that I mentioned during the show. If you are the go-to, if you're the person who's doing all the things, you're the principal of your interior design firm and you're charging $200, $300, $400, God knows what for your time, but you're spending 2 hours a day or 10 hours a week on the phone vetting people for your interior design consultations, this could be an option to have it live on your website with clear direction and funnels, very specific as to how you work, how you're going to help them on the consultation, let's say, right? Because that's kind of a standalone service, right? Where we're vetting them, they're vetting us. Sometimes we're giving them actionable advice on that, whatever that looks like, and have that buy button there. Boom, it comes through. You're off to the races. You haven't spent the time. I would like that. I'd be very tempted if I was still doing design today to try that for the consultation. Now, we all know that the rest of it is super complicated. And if you can get your systems and processes and laser focus to a repeatable thing where video can solve that, I mean, can it be done? I'm sure it can. Could I do it? Probably not. Could Frankie do it? I'm absolutely sure he could. But maybe, right? If you're someone who maybe you're an interior designer, you only do kitchens and baths. You're very specific with what you do. I mean, maybe, why not? But definitely for sure, I'm sold on doing the consultation piece that way. I think that could be a really cool tool. Now, Frankie did say, he's found that casual video works the best. I don't know in our line of work as interior designers, how casual is okay for that, right? So I think depending on your aesthetic, your ideal price point, your client avatar, your mileage may vary. So I would experiment with some of the professionalism and how casual you want to get with that. For marketing, that probably is a little bit more casual, but I do think that at the price points we're at and the clients we're trying to attract, I don't know, a little bit more polish. Maybe that's just my 2 cents. Frankie says you don't need it. Maybe you don't. I don't know. Your mileage may vary again, but he's definitely set off some ideas in my head about moving forward, maybe even with some of Wingnut sales, Wingnut's marketing. So it's very, very, very interesting concept. Let me know what you guys think. Hit us up at info@wingnutsocial.com. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And if you're not watching us on our YouTube channel, designed by Wingnut Social, we just hit 1,000 subscribers. Yeah, I was going to say followers, watchers, but it is subscribers. So thank you so much for that. Then you get to see us in all of our glory, talking the things. You can have us running on in the background while you do your work. If you have questions about doing video for your business, Frankie Fihn, beyondagencyprofits.com. Head on over to his website. I'm sure he'd be open to answering some questions for you. I hope that's okay, Frankie. And that's it for this week. Remember, if you need marketing for your interior design business, digital marketing, if you're an architect, to the trade vendor, maybe you're a showroom, maybe you are a coach for interior designers, and you are struggling growing your brand, reach, awareness, clients, people don't know who the hell you are. You haven't built that know, like, and trust before you even try a video. Wingnutsocial.com. That's what we do. That's what we do the best. Head on over there, see what we're all about, and hit that Let's Chat button. Let's see how we can work together. All right, guys, that's it for this week. Remember, until next time, to get out there, get uncomfortable, and be great.